You're not lazy, you're stuck. You wake up with intention, not once in a while, not randomly, but again and again and again. There are moments, real moments, where you sit with yourself and you feel something shift inside your mind. Maybe it's early in the morning when everything is quiet. Maybe it's late at night when the day is over and there's nothing left to distract you. And in those moments, you start thinking about your life. Not casually, seriously. You think about where you are right now. You think about where you thought you would be by this point. You think about the time that has passed, the months that turned into years, the plans you made, the ideas you had, the things you said you were going to do. And for a second, everything becomes clear. You see it. You understand it. You feel it. You tell yourself, this is it. I get it now. You promise yourself that this time is different. You tell yourself that this time you're not going to fall back into the same pattern. You tell yourself that today is the day you take control. That today is the day you stop wasting time, stop drifting, stop delaying, and actually start building something real. And in that moment, it feels powerful. It feels real. It feels like something inside you finally clicked. But then, something happens. Not something big, not something dramatic. Nothing crashes your plan. Nothing destroys your motivation. It's something much smaller than that. Something quiet. Something almost invisible. You check your phone for a minute. Just a minute. You scroll a little longer than you expected. You tell yourself, I'll start in a bit. I just need to warm up. I just need to get into the right mindset. You convince yourself that starting later won't make a difference. And that's where it begins. Minutes turn into an hour. An hour turns into several hours. And before you even fully realize what happened, the day is gone. Gone. Just like that. No progress, no execution. Nothing built, nothing changed. And now you're sitting there again, same position, same environment, same thoughts. But a different feeling. That quiet frustration. That heavy awareness. That internal voice that says, you did it again. Not loud, not aggressive, but present. Always present. And here's the truth that most people don't understand about you. You're not someone who doesn't care. You care a lot. You think about your future. You think about your potential. You think about what you could be doing differently. You think about how much more you're capable of. You're aware. You're conscious. You're not blind to your situation. And that's exactly why this hurts. Because if you didn't care, you wouldn't feel this. If you didn't see your potential, you wouldn't feel this weight. If you didn't know you could do more, you wouldn't feel this frustration. But you do. And that's the problem. Because now you're stuck in a space where you're not doing nothing, but you're not moving forward either. You're not completely lost, but you're not progressing either. You're not failing, but you're not winning. You're in between. And that in-between space is where most men stay for years. Years. They live in this cycle where every day starts with intention and ends with disappointment. Where every week begins with a plan and ends with excuses. Where every month passes with the same thought, I could have done more. And over time, this does something to you, something deeper than just frustration. It starts changing how you see yourself. At first you question your habits, then you question your discipline, then you question your consistency, and eventually you start questioning yourself. You start asking things like, what's wrong with me? Why can't I stay consistent? Why do I keep doing this? Why can't I just focus? And those questions don't give you answers. they create doubt. And doubt is dangerous, because once doubt enters your mind, it doesn't stay small. It grows. Now it's not just about what you didn't do today. It's about what you believe you're incapable of doing tomorrow. And slowly, without even noticing, your confidence starts slipping. Not all at once, not dramatically, but gradually, quietly. Every day that passes without progress adds weight. It adds pressure. It creates a gap between who you are and who you believe you should be. And the bigger that gap becomes, the heavier it feels. Because now you're not just thinking about what you need to do. You're thinking about everything you haven't done, everything you delayed, everything you avoided, everything you let slip. And that weight doesn't push you forward. It slows you down. It makes starting harder. It makes focusing harder. It makes taking action feel heavier than it should be. That's what being stuck really is. It's not laziness, it's not a lack. The reason you feel stuck has less to do with how hard you are trying and more to do with how your energy is being used every single day. From the outside, it looks like effort. You stay busy, you handle responsibilities, you move through your day doing things that feel productive. But being busy is not the same as moving forward, and effort that is scattered will never create real progress. It only creates the illusion that you are trying enough while keeping you exactly where you are. If you slow down and look at your day honestly, patterns start to show up. You begin things but don't finish them. You shift your focus too quickly. You allow small distractions to break your momentum. None of these feel serious in the moment, but over time they shape your behavior. Your mind becomes used to short bursts of attention instead of deep focus. It becomes comfortable starting without finishing, and eventually this becomes automatic. Now when you sit down to do something important, your mind hesitates. It looks for something easier, not because you are incapable, but because you have trained it to avoid sustained effort. At the same time, you are consuming more than you are creating. You think about ideas, you plan, you imagine what you could do, and that thinking gives you a temporary sense of progress. But thinking is not building, planning is not execution, and the gap between what you know and what you actually do begins to grow. That gap is where frustration starts. You know you should be doing more, but your actions don't reflect it. And that tension slowly builds inside you. Then comparison makes it worse. You see others moving forward, getting results, building something real, and you start measuring yourself against them. Instead of motivating you, it creates pressure. You begin to feel behind, and that pressure leads to overthinking. You start questioning every move, waiting for the right moment, delaying action until things feel perfect. But while you are thinking, nothing is happening. This creates a loop. You delay because you overthink. You overthink because you feel behind. And you feel behind because you are not taking action. Over time, this loop becomes your normal state. You are always close to starting, but rarely fully committed. You are always thinking about change, but not living it. Eventually, this affects how you see yourself. You start identifying as someone who struggles with consistency, someone who has potential but doesn't follow through. And once that belief settles in, it becomes even harder to break out. Because now you are not just dealing with habits, you are dealing with identity. That is the trap. You are not stuck because you don't know what to do. You are stuck because your daily actions are not aligned with what you know. And until your behavior changes, nothing else will. him on. Most men never get out of this phase. Not because they lack intelligence, not because they lack ability, and definitely not because they lack potential. They stay stuck because they keep trying to fix the wrong problem. They think the issue is motivation, so they try to push themselves harder. They wait for the moment where they feel ready, where everything clicks, where they suddenly have the energy to change everything at once. But that moment never comes in the way they expect it to. Motivation is temporary. It comes and goes. It rises when things feel easy and disappears the moment things get difficult. If your progress depends on something that unstable, your progress will always be inconsistent. That's why you can feel extremely driven one day and completely off the next. It's not because you changed. It's because you were relying on something that was never meant to be consistent in the first place. The deeper issue is structure. Most men don't have it. They wake up without a clear system. They move through the day reacting instead of executing. They let their mood decide what they do instead of letting discipline guide their actions. And when your day is controlled by how you feel, your results will always be unpredictable. One day you do everything right. The next day, you do nothing at all. And over time, that inconsistency becomes your normal pattern. This pattern creates a dangerous identity. You begin to see yourself as someone who starts but doesn't finish, someone who plans but doesn't execute, someone who knows what to do but doesn't actually do it. That belief starts shaping your actions before you even realize it. You sit down to work, but there's already a part of you expecting that you won't follow through. You tell yourself you'll stay consistent this time, but there's doubt behind it, and that doubt weakens your commitment. Most men don't fail because they try and lose. They fail because they never fully commit long enough to see results. They stop too early. They switch direction too quickly. They abandon structure the moment it becomes uncomfortable. They keep resetting instead of building momentum. And without momentum, nothing feels like it's working. That's why time passes without change. Days turn into weeks. Weeks turn into months. Months turn into years. And the situation looks the same. Not because nothing was done, but because nothing was done consistently enough to matter. Progress requires repetition. It requires staying with something long enough for it to compound. But when you constantly interrupt your own progress, nothing compounds. This is the silent problem most men live with. They are not completely inactive, but they are not consistent either. They move forward a little, then fall back. They try again, then stop again. And that cycle keeps them exactly where they started. Over time, this becomes frustrating. Not loud frustration, but quiet frustration. The kind that sits in the background of your mind and reminds you that you're not where you should be. Eventually, that frustration turns into something else. It turns into acceptance. Not real acceptance, but a quiet belief that maybe this is just how things are. That maybe this is your pace. That maybe you're just not built to move faster. And once that belief sets in, progress slows down even more. This is why most men never escape. Not because they can't, but because they never change the system that keeps them stuck. They keep trying to push harder without fixing the structure underneath. They keep relying on motivation instead of discipline. They keep starting over instead of staying consistent. And until that changes, nothing else will. Everything changes the moment you stop waiting for the perfect moment and start building a system that does not depend on how you feel. This is where the shift happens. Not in your thoughts, not in your intentions, but in your actions. The silent king does not wait for motivation. He removes the need for it. He creates structure so strong that it carries him even on days when he doesn't feel like doing anything. He doesn't wake up and ask himself what he should do. He already knows. His day is defined before it begins. His focus is decided before distractions appear. His priorities are clear, and his actions follow those priorities without negotiation. That is the difference between someone who feels stuck and someone who moves forward consistently. Control is the key. Control over time. Control over attention. Control over actions. Most men give this control away without realizing it. They let distractions decide where their time goes. They let their mood decide what they do. They let their environment shape their behavior. And when you don't control these things, you don't control your life. The silent king takes that control back. He limits distractions aggressively. He understands that focus is not something that just happens. It is something that is protected. He removes unnecessary noise. He creates an environment where deep work becomes possible. And once that environment is in place, everything becomes easier. He focuses on one thing at a time, not 10 things, not multiple directions, one clear target. And he stays with it long enough to see progress. This is where most men fail. They divide their energy across too many things and then wonder why nothing grows. The silent king concentrates his energy and allows it to build momentum. Momentum is what changes everything. At first, progress feels slow, almost invisible, but consistency compounds. One day of focused work turns into a week turns into a month turns into real results. And those results rebuild confidence. Not fake confidence, but real confidence based on proof. That proof changes your identity. You are no longer the man who struggles to stay consistent. You are the man who shows up regardless of how he feels. You are the man who finishes what he starts. You are the man who builds, even when it's uncomfortable. And once that identity shifts, everything else follows. You stop overthinking because you are too focused on executing. You stop comparing because you are too busy progressing. You stop feeling stuck because you are moving every single day. Not perfectly, but consistently. And consistency removes doubt. It replaces it with clarity and control. This is the shift from being stuck to being dangerous. Dangerous not because of aggression, but because of discipline. Because now your actions are aligned with your goals. Your time is aligned with your priorities. Your focus is aligned with what actually matters. And when all of that aligns, progress becomes inevitable. You don't need a breakthrough moment. You don't need a sudden burst of motivation. You need a system that works every single day. You need structure that removes excuses. You need discipline that replaces emotion. That is what creates real change. Once you reach this point, you are no longer waiting. You are no longer hoping. You are no longer stuck. You are building every day, step by step. And that is what separates men who stay where they are from men who move forward. Stop waiting to feel ready. Start building even when you don't. Most men will watch this and do nothing. A few will act. If you're one of them, then like, share, and subscribe. This channel is for men who are done being average. If you felt this, you already know why you're here.